Part 6 of the essay by on modernist drama, origins and patterns. So the dimensions and the perimeter of theatrical space are also subjected by modernist drama to radical revision. Sometimes the dividing line falls somewhere across the middle, sometimes it encircles the playhouse altogether. So now in this part of the essay, so far we have discussed the different origins and how we can define modernist drama, what are the patterns. The last part we're discussing about silences and dialogues and the play of language and all of that, right? But this part particularly discusses the space where the theatrical performance occurs. Okay, so the dimensions of the stage that we always think of as very very essential to a drama, that is also being unraveled by modernist drama. Okay, so this dimension, the perimeter of the stage is being completely revised. Sometimes the dividing line between where the stage ends and where the audience begins is somewhere along the middle. Okay, that means the audience is part of the stage now, as I've already told you when we did the introduction to this paper, as such, that how Bertolt Brecht broke the fourth wall and integrated the audience into the play. So then there is no fourth wall, there is no line that is dividing the audience from the stage. Okay, so sometimes it falls across the middle, that means there will be a stage there, or sometimes it will be the entire playhouse, that means that entire building where the play is happening will become the stage. So that is what this part is discussing. All right, now pre-modernist drama, it fostered the illusion that the audience was eavesdropping. Okay, it was almost like suppose you are living in a house and you have a neighbor, but you have a window in your bedroom through which you can see what is happening in the neighbor's living room. So when there is a fight happening in the neighbor's living room, you can access this fight, or you can watch and enjoy, or whatever this fight, through that window that is there in your living room. All right, so what does that become? It becomes eavesdropping. That means you're not supposed to be there, you're not supposed to be watching, but you are. So pre-modernist drama was like that. Something was happening on a stage, but there was an invisible fourth wall. Where the stage opening is, there is an invisible fourth wall, and the audience is not supposed to be there. The audience is not acknowledged by the actors or the characters or the playwright or anyone else. Okay, it is as if something is happening, and it is all very natural. But here in modernist drama, the unnaturalness of a stage, that means the unnaturalness of the events happening on stage, become evident. Okay, because in some cases the stage as a space is highlighted in such a way that it shows you that this is an illusion, it's not reality. Okay, in other cases what happens, there is no difference between the stage and the space of the audience, it is all mixed up. All right, so sometimes it encircles the playhouse altogether. All right, now again here he gives the example of how Ibsen used this device in his play called the Wild Ducks. Okay, why? What happens is that there is a servant who's talking to a waiter. This is before, almost like a prelude to the play, before the actual play begins, and before the audience can place themselves and understand the story in that context. This is almost like the narrator coming and telling you the context, that this is what happened so far, now we will see what happened. അങ്ങനെ പറയുന്നതിന് പകരം what is happening, two characters on stage are discussing what has happened so far. All right, he tells the situation that has led to whatever is going to happen on the stage. Okay, so that is what's happening. Okay, so there this device was used by Ibsen in order to show, in order to involve the audience into the play as such. Then he gives us the example. He says that uh, when this essential phase, okay, of explaining to the audience what has happened before the play itself starts, was an awkward sort of essential phase, that is a thing of the past. All right, And now you don't need to think of this gallery as being not there. That means the actors on the stage can acknowledge the audience. They don't need to pretend like no one is watching or there is no one in the seats. Okay, so it is precisely this illusion of drama, this illusion that this dark and hushed auditorium that is there opposite to a bright, very illuminous stage, uh, is something that the greatest dramatist of all time called Bertolt Brecht wanted to abolish. Okay, so while playwrights like Ibsen are still using this kind of technique to place the audience, to not tell to instead of telling the audience directly that this is going to happen, they are placing characters there to explain things. Okay, so this is something that Brecht wanted to abolish. He did not want the fourth wall anymore. He wanted the audience to be involved in the action on the stage. All right. So, but at the same time, what this does is that when you are breaking that fourth wall, or when we are breaking that illusion that there is no stage, what happens is that another illusion is created. That means the entire experience, suppose you are going to watch a play and there is no fourth wall, the audience, the actors are coming down from the stage, they're sitting beside you in the chair beside you and acting. What happens then? The entire auditorium becomes a stage. So a new illusion is created there. Instead of breaking the illusion of a stage, it is encompassing the entire auditorium space and making it into a stage. Okay, so that is what our author says, that even when Brecht is trying to abolish that fourth wall, what happens is that it is just an extension of the area of the stage that happens, because still what is happening is something that we know that is not real. It is a drama, എന്നുള്ള ആ ഒരു awareness is something that we always have. Okay, so this illusion, as we shall see, has fostered another tendency in modernism, that fathered by Anton Artaud. Okay, now this is the next section. As I told you, this is part of an entire book that they have written. That section is not there for us to study, but we've already discussed Antonin Artaud when we studied theater of cruelty. So he expanded these techniques further, is what you need to understand here. So this Brecht's almost rejection of this illusion of the stage is something that marks one of the most original innovations in the history of drama. Everything else was derived from something that already existed. All right. So Brecht's innovation was something that was completely groundbreaking and completely different. Okay, it was very very original, and that is why it became a very political matter, because he was completely, let's say, reworking the idea of drama as such when he was breaking that fourth wall. All right. One second. Then the authors tell us another instance of Eugene Ionesco when he wrote a play. Okay, he says it says that he used to remind the audience that they are sitting in a playhouse. That means it would, in the a playwright would make the audience aware that this is not real, it's an illusion. You are sitting in a playhouse, but you have to imagine that you are playing a game. That means it's not like per parade drama pole, they don't have to sit as a passive audience, they can be active, but you have to imagine that you are playing a game. So don't forget that this is an illusion. The idea of illusion should remain. Okay, don't think that it is a reality. All right. Another tendency of a world in a room is hymning, where one is ironic. It aims to be frenzied. Okay, so what happens here is that another exponent called Jean Genet is introduced to us. We have already studied him in one of those key terms that we discussed. We've already talked about Jean Genet. Okay, so Jean Genet, he wrote a play called The Blacks, and it was obviously about people belonging to the black race. But he insisted that whenever this performance of this play is put up on in an auditorium, at least one white person should be there in the audience. Probably because some part of the play will use that white person in the audience. Now, if a white person is not present due to whatever circumstances, they have to use a dummy there. in the audience. Okay, so what all this is showing is how the audience was increasingly being brought, being encouraged to be a part of the drama rather than be passive, viewers of something that happened. Okay, then there are examples given of how, sometimes this would become extreme. That means, uh, when we think of drama, there has to be a certain discipline, some certain discipline. But when modernist drama and postmodernist drama is coming into play, especially when we discuss the plays that we did this semester, we saw that, there is a lack of discipline on the stage, in the sense that, the actor is free to act according to his own free will. He does not even need to listen to the director, or does not need to follow the script. So what happens is that these free actors, sometimes they go into a outbursts of delirium that sometimes cannot be contained. All right, so that is one issue that happens. Then, there are some who sees that good acting and professionalism should always be there when you're acting, because as we see in modernist drama, the actor can come as himself. In certain cases, he can remove the mask of the character and speak for himself. So to practice professionalism and good acting is very important. All right, then another very important point that the authors point out here is about the second postulate that we discussed, that the world is a stage. Okay, now what happens in modernist drama is that such attempts to make theater, to rework theater into a modernist phenomena, what happens is that such attempts to substitute theatrical experience for experience in the outside world. That means when you're trying to integrate the audience into the play, when you're trying to, break the illusion of fiction in the play, what happens is that instead of saying that all the world is a stage, okay, the stage becomes the world in itself. That means there is no break between fiction and reality. There is no break between real and illusion. So what happens is that instead of saying that the whole world is a stage, as it is probably very very popularly said, the entire stage becomes the world. All right, and that is a very very confusing thing to happen, right? So this tendency is confusing and at the same time quite dangerous, because when the stage becomes the world, there is no scope for, defining or making the audience realize that they are in a controlled place, or that they're watching an illusionary event happening. In many cases, the audience gets so involved in the play that they find it very difficult to, come out of that mental state even after the play has ended. So it is quite a dangerous thing to happen. All right, and this is a strain that is very dominant in modernist drama today. This strain of, of making the whole world, whole the stage becomes the whole world. This is a prominent trait that exists in modern drama today. In the last part, on the part 7 of the essay, the authors try to tell us how theatre and cinema are subject to the same zeitgeist, or zeitgeist we already discussed. It means spirit of the age. They are both products of the spirit of the age. That means whatever is relevant to the age is what is shown in theatre as well as in cinema. Okay, and it is the same forces that push them. That means in some cases we see that cinema is borrowing something from drama. In some cases, drama borrows something from cinema. Sometimes playwrights go and produce films. Some playwrights, help other filmmakers. So there is a constant give and take relationship between theater and cinema that happens. Okay, the same forces pushing the medium progressively into an even greater awareness of itself. In both theater and drama, the trend that we see is that, they are both becoming aware of the aware of themselves. That means they are becoming aware of the fact that theater and cinema both are mediums of presenting whatever concepts there are. Okay, and involving the spectator more intimately in its evolution. So theater and cinema are obviously evolving with the times, and as they are evolving and completely reworking their their entire existence, they are integrating the audience or involving the audience more intimately into their practices. Even cinema now, okay, in Netflix, there was some series, I forget the name, Black Mirror, I think, where the audience, or the person who's the viewer who's watching, is able to select what you want to happen. Like a person is standing in front of a few medicines, pills, and you can choose whether you are given options. You can choose whether you want to swallow the pills, whether you want to throw it away, or whether you want to break the glass. Okay, what is happening? It's a complete revolution where even in cinema the audience is being involved intimately into the process. Okay, so both theater and cinema operate universally. That means they have very similar ideas coming out, and they are breaking out from the frontiers or the borders that traditionally held them together. Whatever we believed that this is how drama should be or this is how cinema should be is being completely broken down today. Okay, modernism, finally, this is the final word that the author ends the essay by. He says that even though we have discussed so far about what modernism is, we have tried to define what modernism is, we have tried to find some patterns and methods that usually we see in modern drama, but at the same time we have continuously seen examples of how these same methods, these same concepts were used by earlier playwrights in the pre-modern era also. Okay, so it becomes problematic for us to define modernism as such, and that is why our author ends by saying that even though modernism is something that is associated with this period of time, it is represented better by Strindberg rather than Brieux, even though Strindberg was from an earlier period and Brieux was from a modern period. Modernism was better represented by Strindberg, it was better represented by Wedekind, and it was better represented by Keats than it ever was by George Bernard Shaw. Okay, so what he's trying to say finally that we can understand is that people who belong to the pre-modern era already were fostering some modernist tendencies, even though modernism as such had not begun as a movement during that point of time. Each and all belong to pre-modern era, but still the kind of methods, techniques, the ideas that they used in theater were modern in a sense. Okay, or they were the precursors of modernist drama that we have today, and that's why our author wants to say that they were better modernists than the actual modernists that we have belong to this particular period. Okay, and that is how the essay ends. I hope that you understood something, and I hope that you have written down proper notes. Please do not rely on this PPT alone, because I've only brought out some few important points in the PPT. Others have been narrated by me or read out by me or explained by me. Okay, I don't want to make very bulky PPTs. That's why it's just a pointer for me actually, rather than being notes for you. Okay, so I hope that you have written down proper notes, and that is the end of our essay. Thank you.